main body is kind of drifting off into nowhere, which is kind of fun. Alright, so Muffin Master, you asked if I could give a brief description of the game. So basically, Delver's Drop is obviously plays like a roguelike. It's sort of like a roguelike light, where it's got semi-permadeath, where, you know, when your character dies, they're gone, you know, like you start over from the beginning of the game. But as you go, you do level up. You can see the level thing over on the top left there. You do level up, you gain abilities, there's kind of a skill tree mechanic, a la Diablo or Borderlands, and it's got randomized loot just like those games as well. So it's kind of going for sort of a dungeon crawler route, but with like very quick progression, you know? So whereas, say, Diablo is following like a straight, you know, story that you play for like hours, and you're, you know, getting loot all the time, and it's randomized, but eventually, you know, after a couple hours, you start to get like that one piece of loot that you stick with for days on end, and you never really get anything better. Or at least that's how I felt with Diablo 3. I was either really unlucky with loot drops, or the game just, I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of the randomized, like, billions of pieces of loot thing, but I feel like it works in, it works in Delver's Drop's favor, because you're not going to be using any particular weapon for long, you know? It's... You can play the game probably within 3-4 hours your first time through, if you don't die, you know, that's factoring in you never die or make a mistake or anything, which isn't too likely, but, you know, like, it's a learning experience, because it is a roguelike, so you will, you know, get better as you go along. But, the reason I like that with the randomized loot system is that even if you get really crap loot at one point, like, you're constantly going through that process over and over again of finding that one really good piece of gear. And even if you end up sticking with it for the rest of your playthrough, it's kind of fleeting, you know? Once you lose it, it's gone. So you have to find something else just as cool. But it's not like Diablo, where you spend hours and hours with the same equipment, and, you know, once you get to that point of where, you know, oh, I'm pretty good on loot, everything else I'm picking up is kind of crappy in comparison. Delver's Drop, you're gonna die, you're gonna start over, and then you're gonna have to, like, scrounge up more stuff. So it's got that sense of progression kind of constantly throughout, and that was a really overblown explanation for a simple thing. But moving on from that, the plot of Delver's Drop is basically you are kind of an unlucky adventurer, a miscreant, who was unrightfully, or perhaps rightfully, imprisoned by the king of the city called Spirewatch, which is on top of a giant mountain called Cornus, or not a mountain, but like this giant structure that kind of juts out of a swamp called Cornus Spire. And in Cornus Spire is Spirewatch, and that's like the main city of the game, or of like where the lore kind of takes place, sort of. I mean, mainly it takes place in the drop, but Spirewatch leads into the drop, basically. So you get imprisoned, and the king's guards basically send all of the prisoners down into the drop. So your goal as the prisoners is to journey down through these ancient sort of dungeons that all represent like different eons and ages of civilization building up to Spirewatch, you know. So these are kind of, I guess, old ruins that have been overtaken by creatures of your civilization from like hundreds of years past. I think. Like, that's kind of the general idea of it. At least from what I've gathered from the lore. So, the reason that you're being sent down the drop, though, is because there's this rumor of, sort of like a fountain that either provides, like, it's sort of like a fountain of youth thing, or it provides some enormous boon that they want you to find, and the only way out of the drop is to, you know, go down and reach its bottom and see whatever lurks down there. And there's stuff that hasn't been revealed to us yet as far as what actually is down there. you know, I'm imagining it's something kind of terrifying that they're just sending people down as fodder to deal with, but yeah, so so I mean, that's just the surface. That's what really, if you want to know why I backed this game in the first place, and I backed it at like $50. This was the first Kickstarter thing I ever backed, and I don't think I'll back anything that high ever again. But like, I still feel like it was worthwhile to back this game because it's really, it's got a great concept to it, you know, like the setup is really intriguing and I want to know more, and a lot of the ideas behind the game, gameplay wise, is that it's all physics based. So as you can see, like everything kind of moves around naturally, or at least most things. So like each character runs off of a very kind of robust physics system. So no class controls just like the other one, you know, they're not just carbon copies of the same general player character with some extra abilities tacked onto them, you know. Everything, you know, each character has an aspect that matters to them about their movement, their defenses, their affinities for certain weapon types. There's a lot going on, basically. So, I'm dropping frames. Oh, darn. I didn't get a notice about it from XSplit, so maybe it's just not telling me, though. Let me check XSplit a sec. I've dropped... yeah, I dropped 550 frames at one point. But it doesn't look like it's continuing to drop, so hopefully it's not gonna continue happening. Anyways, so yeah, like, the lore is the big thing that got me really into Delver's Drop, and a lot of the way that they're approaching lore in this game is they want it to be sort of like, almost like the Souls games, where nothing is strictly required. You don't have to learn about the lore, and there are NPCs that will inhabit the drop that will tell you little bits of backstory about its history and that sort of thing. But at no point do you have to sit down and watch like a cutscene. It's mostly like during gameplay you'll see people, text boxes will appear above their heads, and you can continue moving around if you want to, and you can just, you know, you can walk away from them if you want. You could throw them down a pit if you wanted to. I guess, maybe not, but that would be pretty funny. It's a lot of that kind of, it doesn't want to shove its lore down your throat, but if you're intrigued by the world, there's a lot to learn about it. And that's something I thought was really cool. So, I mean, in terms of gameplay, it's a really interesting idea. As you can see from this, it's still got some stuff to work on, but I mean, honestly, the quality of it right now even is pretty entertaining. And the fact that, like, for this most recent build, they've brought Endless Drop back as a more kind of main role in the game, I'm really happy, because Endless Drop was a really fun aspect of the pre-alpha build. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, there are little things that I feel about the game, like, I think it uses kind of tweening style animation where, you know, the characters just kind of squish and stretch, and that never looks as smooth as frame-by-frame animation, but granted the quality of the art, I think it's justified, and the art style is beautiful, you know, like, even if the animation is a little kind of cartoony, in a way that does work for the game style, because even though it's like sort of dark fantasy in its setup, it does take on a very sort of fun style to it, so it juxtaposes well with itself, you know, between being dark fantasy and being kind of cartoony, and I like that. Oh wow. Yeah, so fireballs. Oh yeah, and that's another thing, is that the game, they do have like some weakness-based stuff that they're implementing, so, you know, you'll be able to get certain weapons that will be imbued with fire or ice or all these different elements. And another cool thing, even with the lore, is that, you know, they've got their own elemental system with how everything works together. There's these elements that can kind of combine together into different secondary elements. So, like, if you combine, I think, water and earth, you get ice. really basic elemental stuff, but like it's ingrained into the game's universe. They've got like their own unique names for the different elements, and there's just a lot of flavor to it, you know. And I think that's really important in immersing a player into a game's world, and I think Delver's Drop does that really well. Anyways, so yeah, that was a mouthful. I know when I get on a tangent, I really get on a tangent, so I apologize if I was just retreading the same couple of things I was saying there, but there's a lot to talk about in this game, and there's a lot to be excited about, and I am excited about it. And I haven't played it for a while. I mean, it's been in development for 2 years, if not more, maybe 2.5. I don't even remember, but it was a while back when I first backed the game, and I still do, you know, whenever a new build comes out, I kind of have, like, my excitement for it is rekindled, because I really can't wait to see the final product, you know. I can't wait to play it in its finished form. So we've been going for quite a while here. And that's the thing too, is that the game is not, you know, it's not based on your gear, the amount of success you're gonna have. It is absolutely like all on you and your own skill and familiarity with the enemies, with the game, with how the combat system works. So it is very rewarding the more you play and the more accustomed you get to it. Right now, being early, you know, when you run into a bug that kind of ends a run, or just something really kind of BS-y, like, the spike rooms aren't that bad, but occasionally spikes do frustrate me. Just because it's difficult with the physics system sometimes, you get kind of floaty, and that makes it difficult to maneuver about. But, yeah. Can I, oh no. Oh, this is problematic. Oh, here we go. Hold on. I gotta move this thing out of the way somehow. Please move back. No! Oh shoot. This is a strange puzzle room, if I ever saw one. See, if I try and go either of these ways, I'm gonna totally fall down a pit and die. Whoa. So I'm gonna have to somehow glitch these things out of my way, or this run's gonna be over. Maybe I can somehow rush them. It seems like every time I start talking about the game-breaking stuff, something game-breaking happens. It's a little too perfect. Dude, my vocal hole is full of flowing words. It is what it was made for. My articulation of my innermost, truest feelings. Like getting stuck with bottomless pit on one side and immobile blocks on the other. Are you kidding me? Ah! Nope. Yeah, okay. Okay. I figured it was worth a try to try and just run over the other side. See, if there were bombs available right now, and this is something really cool about the physics system, is that there is, like, you know, you have the x-axis and the y-axis, so up and down, left and right, but you also have a z-axis, so the game actually does have, like, a height to it. So, like, flying enemies, you know, some ranged items or, like, traps that shoot fireballs on the floor won't hit bats because the bats are flying above it. Or rats, you can't shoot arrows at them because the arrows go above the rats' heads, or at least they used to. By that same logic, certain things will send you flying in the air. So if you put down a bomb and then you detonate yourself, you can kind of bomb jump a little bit. You know, it's almost like, not quite as crazy as, say, Quake, with, like, rocket jumping, but you can kind of bomb jump across chasms. So right there, if we had bombs available as an item in this build, then I would have been able to hop over that chasm and prevent myself from getting stuck. So there's a lot of flexibility and there's a lot of versatility with like the items that are going to be implemented. And yeah, so it's kind of 2.5D in gameplay. It's all 2D graphics for the most part. There's some minor 3D and like, you know, some of the pillars in the game, but aside from that, yeah, it's beautiful. I like this game, and if you want, you should totally check it out. The guys making it at Pixelscopic are very nice, very receptive people. The forums have been a little dead recently, aside from some, you know, regulars that still hang around occasionally, but it's a cool game, and the music's pretty good too. So, anyways, that'll do it for Delver's Drop, and those were two really good runs. I'm pretty happy with those.